I have a few tips for you for preparing your holiday meal so that the day of the meal is not quite as stressful or busy as it would be if you tried to prepare the entire meal within a day or two. So my first tip is prepare the turkey to go in the oven the day before. Get it all ready, get it seasoned, buttered, whatever you do your turkey before you cook it. That way you can be sure it's completely thawed and prepare it. Just wrap it in foil and put it in the refrigerator. That way all you have to do is put it into your roasting pan and put it in the oven on the morning of the meal. Tip 2, put your turkey into the oven early enough in the morning so that you'll take it out a couple hours before the actual meal. The turkey needs to sit for a certain length of time before it's carved anyway, and that will give you time to bake your casseroles, your pies, your breads, so that they're hot for the meal. Tip number 3 is prepare your mashed potatoes, or if you're not doing traditional mashed potatoes, do the smashed taters like my son does, with the jackets on, and they are delicious, but you can prepare those the day before. They do not have to be made the day of the meal because they heat up very well and no one's going to know you made the mashed potatoes the day before. Tip number 4, make your cakes a day or two in advance. Or if you're making a cake like my sour cream pound cake, it can be made 2 or 3 days in advance and nobody's going to know it just didn't come out of the oven a little while earlier. Or you can make it a month in advance and freeze it and then pull it out on the day of, I would pull it out the day before and let it thaw good. But you can make those cakes ahead of time. You can also, tip number 5 is you can also make your candies and cookies several days in advance. Your Hershey's cocoa fudge, your divinity, all of those candies are going to be just as good 2 or 3 days down the road than they are the day that you make them. So you can make your candies and cookies in advance so that you're not so pressed for time on the day of the meal. Um, Tip number 6, make if you're making pies like pumpkin or sweet potato, that kind of pie, you can make up your pie filling in advance, a month or two before, freeze it, and then the day before, all you have to do is take it out of the freezer to thaw, and then bake that pie right before the meal time, and it's easy peasy. All you got to do is make sure it's thawed, pour it into your pie shell, and bake it. Tip number 7, prepare your beverages in advance. Now, I don't know if you're like my family, but we drink tons and tons, gallons and gallons of sweet tea and some unsweet tea on the day of a big holiday meal. But you can make that tea the day before, even 2 days before. I wouldn't go a week, but you can make it a day or two early, and it's just as good. The same if you're making lemonade. Tip number 8, if you happen to be making chicken and dumplings, you can cook that chicken at any time, a month before your meal. And all you have to do is prepare it. You take the meat off the bones, you freeze your broth, you freeze your chicken that's going in the back into the dumplings. Go ahead and make your dumplings and freeze them. Then the day of the meal, all you have to do is bring your broth to a boil in a pot and drop your frozen dumplings right in, add your chicken, and you've got fresh chicken and dumplings. And you've got very little to do on the day of the big meal because all the work was done in advance. Now, the next tip, which I believe is tip number 9, if you're making dressing, for example, my family always made chicken and dumplings and dressing, but if you're making dressing, you can also make that ahead of time. You don't have to wait till the day of the meal to make it. Now, um, I like to add to my dressing, I like to add some of the broth off the turkey where it was cooked. So you can mix up the rest of your ingredients, refrigerate them. You can make that up to 2 days before. You know, you've got to cook all your vegetables, your onions, your celery, your bell peppers. You prepare those, you prepare your cornbread, mix it all up, and then put it in the refrigerator. And then when your turkey comes out of the oven, get that out, put it in your baking dish, add your broth off your turkey, put it in the oven and bake it. It'll bake within that 2 hour period, that 2 hour window of opportunity before your meal. And tip number 10 is if you are making casseroles, like your green bean casserole, like your sweet potato casserole, any of those traditional casseroles that you normally make for a holiday meal. And I'm talking the ones I mentioned or what we make in the South. You may make different ones, but you can make those casseroles in advance and either pre-bake them um, or you can par bake them. Don't bake them quite as much as they need to be. Um, Bake them about half the time or so. And then refrigerate them. And then on the day of the meal, when your turkey's ready, then you put those casseroles in the oven and finish baking them. It doesn't take very long unless you freeze them, then it will take a little bit longer, or you have to let them thaw in advance. But if you just make them earlier, a day or two earlier, and then refrigerate them, then you can easily finish baking them on the day of the meal, and they'll taste like they were just freshly made. Okay, so those are my 10 tips. However, I overlooked a couple, and let me go ahead and add those. So, tip number 11 is if you're making deviled eggs for the holiday meal, you can boil those eggs 2 days before. Boil the eggs, shell them, and then on the day before the meal, you can go ahead and make your deviled eggs. Cover them with foil or plastic wrap, refrigerate them. Now, this is assuming you have enough room in your refrigerator for all this food, but you can refrigerate those deviled eggs, and they're going to be just as good as if you made them the morning of the meal. So make your deviled eggs the day before. If you're making potato salad, then you can go ahead and cook your potatoes 2 days before and boil your eggs that go in your potato salad. And so either the afternoon before the meal or the morning of the meal while the turkey's baking, then you can go ahead and mix up all the ingredients for the potato salad, and your potato salad will be good to go. So those are at least 12 tips to help you make your holiday more enjoyable and the workload a lot lighter on the day of the meal. So, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and happy cooking. Thanks for stopping by.